Let's call the North Ridgeville Board of Zoning and Building Appeals meeting to order. Will everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Will the clerk please take roll?
Kane is absent. Ali is absent and Smollett is in his place.
Here.
Masterson? Here. Thibodeau?
Here.
Lincoln is absent. Kimball?
Here. Are there any corrections to the minutes dated June 23rd, 2022? Hearing none, the minutes will stand. Are there any reports in front of the board this evening from Planning Commission?
Mr. Chairman, there are no reports at this time.
Thank you, sir. Under other reports and correspondence, we do have our proposed charter amendments that were sent to everyone. Let's have a chance to read through those. These are very important to take a look at. And if there's no other reports or correspondence, we'll move on to the public hearing. Clerk, please read the first application.
EPZ 0130 Leaf Ridge Incorporated 34441 Center Ridge Road PPN 07-000-104-216. Applicant Kathy Eagle 5640 Brock Boulevard, North Ridgeville, Ohio 4439. The applicant is proposing a new multi-tenant sign for their commercial property. Property is zoned B3 district. Requests 1, a 5-foot variance for setback of a pole sign. Applicant shows 7 feet. Code requires 12 feet. Section 1286.07C. See also 1286.06. Chief building officials comments. Multiple tenant business sign to be set back 7 feet from right of way. 1286.07. Multiple tenant pole signs shall be set back 12 foot from right of way when extended to the ground. Applicant requesting 7 foot setback requiring 5-foot variance. BZBA.
We have a representative here this evening. We have, if you could please step to the podium, state your name and address. I'll swear you in. Okay. State your name and address, please.
Kathy Winkle, 5640 Broad Boulevard, North Ridgeville, Ohio 440.
Thank you. Do you swear from the statements you're about to make on this board of zoning and building appeals for the city of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer that you've got it? Could you please tell us a little bit about your application?
So we purchased the building at the corner of Pitts and Center Ridge. The building originally had a ground sign, which was removed from Center Ridge, which was widened. Our intention is to reintroduce that sign to the location to bring visible awareness of the tenants that are in our building currently. From what we understand, the sign would have to be 12 feet away from the current walking path. If it's 12 feet away, that would put the sign basically in the middle of our parking lot. We're asking for this 5-foot variance to try to move the sign closer to Center Ridge, therefore mostly out of the parking lot. It will still be in the parking lot after the variance, but we think we can work that for the parking at the building. The sign would be no closer than 7 foot from the walking path, so our practical difficulty is trying to fit a sign at the property at all since the widening of Center Ridge Road.
Thank you. I've been by the property. I'm sure everyone knows the property quite well. I went there, I pulled in the parking lot, looked around, drove down in Center Ridge, and I don't believe anything that you guys have proposed creating a sort of visual obstruction. I think it would blend it just fine, and it's not going to look like it's on top of the walking path. And I do believe there needs to be also some consideration for the businesses on Center Ridge that have been affected by the plan. But it's allowed and what's not. And I think this plan seems to make sense, and I do like that you're replacing the ground sign, which is ground signs definitely. My opinion, which is absolutely nothing at this point. Are there any questions or comments from any board members?
I wanted to expand on what you had to say. Practical difficulties. You guys have purchased a property and made it really nice. Having the bike is given more of a sidewalk. I think that your combination of trying to get it where you've located it showed a lot of thought. So we appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I guess I have one quick question. Is there any landscaping proposed around the monument sign, or just the sign itself?
Well, what we were gonna try to do is do it something aesthetically pleasing, to like, older, work around it so that the sign doesn't get damaged, being partially in the parking lot. But that was kind of what we were looking at. I haven't really thought of landscaping since it will be on concrete.
Okay, but nothing high, everything is still low, or line of sight.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on behalf of this matter? Administration? There's nothing else. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
I second.
Clerk, please take roll.
Smollett,
Yes.
Masterson,
Yes.
Thibodeau,
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Give the copy.
We're still waiting until you turn the TV on.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
You're
You
good.
have a really good night, okay? You don't have to stay. Oh, you're welcome.
Moving on with the clerk, please read the next application.
I also want to say that I forgot to. Chief, individual person,
Thank you for catching.
second application, EPZ 2022-0132, Mountain Gentilly 33173, Manager Court PPN 07-00-012-102-167. The applicant is proposing a home addition, property in zone R1 district, requests a 6-foot variance for setback of a cluster dwelling unit from a common open space area. Applicant shows 9 feet, but requires 15 feet, section 1282.11 B2. Oh, I'm so sorry. Chief building officials comments. Addition of storage room, 10 by 9, 15 feet from open space. 1282.11 B2, cluster dwelling shall be set back 15 feet from open space. Applicant requesting 9-foot setback from open space, requiring 6-foot variance. BZBA approval required.
Is there a representative here this evening? Sir, if you could please step to the podium and state your name and address. I'll swear you in.
John Gentile with the 33173.
Thank you. Do you swear affirm the statements you're about to make about this board examining the building appeals for the city of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or unto the counties of law of perjury?
I do.
Could you please tell us a little bit about your application?
Yeah, I just put I have my checkbook back in storage and I put a Ridgeville, which are allowed sheds and all, so it's just a storage room. And the storage room will be added. I have a fence that's already there, as you can see. All I'm going to do is extend that fence. And it's going to just like the same part of the fence, except it's going to work on the door again instead of maybe quarter.
And the fence is not on the property line, is that correct?
No. The fence is probably 10 feet off. 8 feet off. There's exactly what's going to extent my 6-foot fence, returning it.
Sure. And the open space behind you, looks to be a pretty substantial amount of land, is that correct?
It's common there,
It's got-
between the 2 streets. Sure, how far the next house is, so. We'll cross the pathway.
Is there a particular reason why you chose that location versus on the other side of the house?
Yeah, there's no room on the other side of the house, and the other way the house is shaped at the end of my living room, there's no place to put it, it's just 2 windows in the living room. It's only the practical place I have to put it. The way the house is designed, it's kind of like a Y. It's not shaped.
So just from a structural design standpoint, that's what makes sense for anywhere else, is that correct?
That's correct. I couldn't put it. Doesn't go there.
Gotcha. Are there any questions or comments from any board members? Yes.
So, I live actually right across, my street is right across the street. I stopped and walked the property this afternoon. One of the things about option homes is, especially in cluster areas, they're very close to each other on their side yard lines, so there is no way. He's right, this is the only place to put it. You can't put it on the side of the house, you can't really put it anywhere else. There's 15 feet. The standard rule in Bob Schmidt subdivision is behind every house is 15 feet out. On the other street, it also has 15 feet out. So it's a total of 30 feet from his property to the next person's property. But when you're at one of the areas that's on a round, a corner, there's even more area. Because just because of how the lots are. So that's my only suggestion, or my only comment. And it is very well thought out. And the homeowners association is quite militant about not having anything attached to the house. I think it's very good design.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Speaking of the HOA, I assume you submitted this to HOA. Did you
Yes.
guys approve yet? Or-
Yes.
Oh, it's approved. Okay. And the only entry is just you don't have an entry going into the house. It's just
No, just to the courtyard. It's a
Okay.
fenced in court.
Is this a slab on grade or is this a full foundation? What's the type of construction?
It's going to be a slab with 2 pole foundations.
Okay.
I've already gotten information from the guy. I've already do all that too. And the pole, but he wants to pole. I have all that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on behalf of this matter? Administration. If there's nothing else, this time the chair will entertain a motion. Second. Clerk, please take roll.
Smollett,
Yes.
Masterson. Yes. Thibodeau.
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Give a copy of it. So.
You can definitely. Thank you. No problems.
Yeah, we can go in it.
Two.
And under other business, we have proposed updates to our zoning and building appeals bylaws. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at those or have any questions? I read through them and I think the changes are well thought out. Some are definitely overdue. And I'm glad that things are being updated.
I agree.
So this time, I will make a motion as chairman to approve the proposed bylaws. Do we have a second?
I second.
Will the clerk please take roll?
Smollett,
I'm going to abstain since I didn't get a chance to review it.
Masterson.
Yes.
Thibodeau.
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
motion carries.
And I did notice something else when I got here, was the change to our zoning and building appeals application. I didn't see it until I sat down, so I didn't know if that was supposed to be part of a packet, or it was just thrown out that
It
this
was
is
a
what
late
it looks
addition,
like.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. I like it. It's one page, clearly better than a whole packet. I did have one question. Will there still be a place for the building inspector's comments?
I already created my own form.
Perfect.
Do you still want the signatures as the board required in their application from the applicant and the property owner notarized? That's not in your new form. The board required that many years ago when a property owner was unaware somebody was making a request for a variance on their property.
And
Well,
Mr.
I
Chair-
believe they now have to be present or show a letter
Yes,
that,
All they have to do is sign the form and have the signature notarized. The owner does not have to be present at the board.
but if they
Yeah.
let us know beforehand, correct?
Sorry?
If they let us know beforehand by that letter, saying that they're not gonna be here and they allow,
Well,
I was a little confused on that, so I'm glad we're talking this out.
the policy has always been that as long as the owner signed and their signature was notarized, acknowledging that they were aware that a variance or request was being made of the board on their property, that's all that was required. Anybody can make an application on a piece of property. And when the board found out that the owner had no knowledge of this, that's when the board years ago said, we want that signature page in there. It's your decision if you still want to keep that. I don't believe it's in the ordinance. I believe that was a decision that the board made and voted on many years ago. I think even before Mayor Gillog was on city council, I believe he was on the zoning board when that was originally created.
Okay.
and Mr. Chair, if I could add, your bylaws that you approved, it does require, well, of course, your application requires signatures of both the applicant and the property owner. But it also says, whenever the applicant is not the property owner's prior consent to the development proposal, and variance must be confirmed in writing and filed with the application. So,
That's what I've read too.
right, so I feel like the notary is just one additional step that's kind of redundant and not necessary and puts more burden on the applicant. When we're still going to collect signatures, provide notice, and if they're defrauding or if they're filing erroneous information, that is grounds for the board to vacate its decision. So it's something where I think there's a lot of controls already in place that will prevent just one extra step for the applicants, for the residents to seek out a notary or, make another stop to, just kind of like how we got rid of them providing the notification of surrounding property owners, just a little bit more streamlined of a process.
I do have a question. Are we a quasi judicial board?
Yes.
And I'm just thinking that it just gives the, you always talk about the air of impropriety, but this is more of an air of we're doing the things that legal documents require, and don't most normal documents require a notarized signature. I understand where you're saying that you're trying to streamline it. Generally, there's always a notary in most government facilities, so that's not a burden, finding a notary on a document. A notary to notarize a document. And that's.
I've not encountered this much in other communities, so I think it's really up to the board if that's something that you feel protects the best interests of North Ridgeville, but I don't think it's necessarily a common practice amongst appeals boards to have that requirement, because of the required signatures, the required notice, the potential for, the disclaimer language and all of those things that are also.
So, I wasn't aware that we had to make a decision on this tonight. Is that what was put up? Can we
You can,
review it and,
sure.
okay. Then let's all take a look at it and, discuss it next month's meeting and make our final decisions. Yes, sir.
I think the only cumbersome part with the old application is, Vice Chair Masterson is correct, that we have lots of notaries here at City Hall that will notarize signature. Well, that usually just works for the applicant. But if the owner isn't the applicant, then they've got to get the owner to chase out and get that signature notarized.
Sure.
That's the only cumbersome part of the application. Sure. I don't necessarily think it was a bad idea. Again, it was the board's decision.
Apparently something bad happened a long time ago.
Because somebody came to the board for a request, and believe it or not, the owner was in the audience and had no idea that that request was made of their property. And that's when the board said, whoa.
Wow.
And I can understand your point, if you're fraudulent in your application. My feeling is that we're a quasi judicial board and
Well, the legalistic concern.
maybe this is something, did this application go in front of the law department? Did they approve it?
There really was an approval process. We just updated it and, circulated it based upon the new ordinance that was approved, and then kind of thinking about the bylaws changes that we're also kind of trying to coordinate all of the layers.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to be clear. So they have seen it?
They've seen it, but they've not passed any particular judgment of approval or disapproval or any type of recommendation. So
Might be a question you might want to ask them. It's like the law department came to us and said on our building permit applications, we want the owner's signature. Because a lot of times the contractor is making an application, and that way we were assured as a city that the property owner was aware that permits were being applied for on their property. Sure. Sometimes the contractor may be hired by a renter. And the property owner has no idea that something's being done to their property. That's why they made us do that requirement. So you might want to ask the law department their opinion.
I definitely will. I'll reach out to them and see. Well, if there's no other business, at this time, the chair will make a motion to adjourn. All those signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
But we did accept.
We did.